finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode with your spectacular co-hosts. I must say, I'm calling myself spectacular. Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh, husband and wife, physician duo, podcasters extraordinaire. You can laugh along with me anytime if you like. If you've been here long enough, you know I'm, inflating my own ego. Anyway, welcome back to another great week. We are excited to have you here. We hope you had a great Easter weekend. Today's episode, I want to get right into because it's really awesome, spectacular, and innovative, is with a board-certified dermatologist, Dr. Manju Dawkins, who's a Los Angeles-based dermatologist. And what's exciting is that she is also an innovator and creator of a new product coming to the market soon called Thimble. And it just has me thinking back to when we did our interview with the makers of Cabinet and Cabinet Health products. She saw a problem in real life with her own kids in healthcare and practice, and has decided to do something about it, and has created the first easy, safe, and accessible solution for alleviating needle pain and anxiety. So she's going to talk to us all about Thimble, what the product is, how it came to be, and how it can help you or your patients alleviate needle pain, anxiety, and not have to worry about getting that vaccine or that injection, or I don't know, or thinking maybe that tattoo.
No.
Tim saying
Don't
no.
think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to be extensive enough.
Anyway,
for that.
So we're going to dive right into that interview with her and maybe chat a little bit more at the end. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of BS Free MD with your co-hosts, Tim and May Hindmarsh, husband and wife duo, not always in agreement in thoughts, but in heart. Anyway, enough of that.
In principle.
There you go.
Sometimes not in practice.
This week, we have a real fun and a different topic. We're actually talking about some medical devices, and our guest is a physician who's created something really fascinating. If you're afraid of needles, even though you might have like an arm full of tattoos like my husband here, some people don't like needles, and this is a solution for that. So this is going to be a fun story and how this got created. Our guest is Dr. Manju Dawkins, who created Thimble, and I'm just going to leave it at that and let her tell us the rest. So thanks for joining us today on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, hey, first off, before we get back into your background and the whole story of Thimble, I loved in your bio that you sent me a little fun fact, which is really cool because most people don't send us fun tidbits about themselves unless we dig it up off the World Wide Web, the dark web or whatever.
The dark web. If you have to dig up tidbits on the dark web, we are in the wrong business.
I'm kidding. So tell us, just for fun, it says that you actually are 5'2" and were a walk-on Division I basketball athlete. That's kind of crazy. Like, was that at college? That was at college, correct?
Yeah. It's the greatest thing I've ever done. Kids, husband aside, all that. It's so fun. I was super grateful for the experience, and I wish everyone could have that opportunity to play sports in college.
Yeah. So do you basically showed up at college with no plans to play basketball? Was that it? Or did you just thought, I'll go try it out? I mean, I don't know how it totally works because we don't have any college athletes in our family. So yeah, give us a little background on that.
Oh no, I played basketball through all of high school. I was on the varsity team all 4 years and everything. And so I really did want to play in college and got recruited to a few places. But, academics was my priority. And so when I got to Columbia, I just got in touch with the coaches and started, working out with the team and everything. Went to tryouts, and I remember that feeling like, when the coach said you made the team, like he started blurring into the background. I was so excited. I was like, it was the best. And actually, so I played at Columbia. Yes, we're Division I, everybody wonders. But it's amazing to see the progress, because actually the team now this year, they made it, they were Ivy champions, and they made it to the NIT tournament. For the women, they were in the championship. So just to see how far the program has come has been like so amazing and satisfying and gratifying, all the good stuff.
That's really awesome. That's really cool to have that story. I love it. So tell, if you don't mind, share with our audience a little bit about you, your training after doing your Division I term there, your background. You're a physician. Tell us a little bit about your degree, what you do, what your specialty in, kind of where you're located now.
Sure. So I grew up on the East Coast, born in Washington, D.C., grew up in Maryland, and then went to school in New York, as I mentioned. And actually, after college, I was a teacher in the New York City public schools for a year. Went off to med school at University of Maryland. Yay for in-state tuition. And did my training all in New York. So I completed my dermatology residency at Albert Einstein and had amazing teachers there. So really grateful for that as well. And then I worked in private practice and in hospital-based medicine and in academics in New York. So I did a little bit of everything there for about 6 years. And then I failed to mention that in college, I met my now husband and co-founder. And he had been in New York, and he'd been in finance the entire time. And he's from California originally. So he always wanted to come back to the West Coast. And finally, 6 years later, we were like, okay, now's the time. And so we picked up and moved. And that was kind of the time when the idea for Thimble came along too. So
when did the idea for Thimble come along? And then let's get into the details of exactly what this is. Sure.
So I would say the first kind of spark happened, when I took my first daughter in for her first set of vaccinations. So I had my older daughter when I was still a resident, and, I took her in for her first set of shots, which happens at around 4 weeks. And they're kind of blobs at that point, so you don't really expect so much. But, she really looked at me, like, at first, like, with pain, and then kind of like betrayal, like, how could you let this happen to me?
Yes, I remember.
Yes, everyone knows that feeling, and
Yeah.
It's just awful. And I was like, man, that was terrible, and I got to do something about this. And, I was a resident, so it was a bit easier for me to do something about it than maybe for other people, because I had co-residents, I had very close access to lots of physicians, and so they were all able to prescribe me a prescription numbing cream, and I kind of hacked my own solution that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then started to realize how pervasive this problem was, and realized how many patients are affected by this. And when we kind of were making that move, that's when I really started working on Thimble, and was grateful to have, my husband co-found it with me.
So I was going to say,
yeah, what year was that?
That was actually 2016.
Okay.
Wow. So you actually, literally just from taking her in to get vaccines, after that experience was like, there's got to be a better way than to torture these poor little babies who we think, they're not going to, just like doing circumcisions, right? They're not going to remember any of this. So what the heck?
Yeah, if the patient doesn't remember, they clearly don't feel anything.
Yes, exactly. And that's what's so interesting is, like, when you look at that, yes, it wasn't so long ago that we used to think that neonates didn't feel any pain. And now we know, of course, that's not true. They're human beings. Of course they feel the pain. You know what I mean? And so, I think we've always been kind of taught, or we always used to think that, they'll just forget about anything that happens before the age of 2. And that's just proven out to not be true.
Right. So I'm curious, basically from then on, every set of vaccinations after that, did you use the numbing cream, which we know it was EMLA, is that correct? Or a
Yes.
combination of something like that?
Exactly. It's EMLA, which I still prescribe it for my own patients. And the thing is, you have to really glob on the medicine. It's not like a sunscreen where you rub it in. You got to glob it on, and then you need to occlude it with saran wrap, and you leave it in place for 2 to 3 hours for it to work its best, and then it can kind of melt down your arm. And a lot of times, for my own patients, like, people will wipe it off before they get into the office. So you're kind of like, well, where's the site?
Yeah.
Where did you numb? So there are all these issues with it. But yes, I definitely used it with my own kids. I'm not going to lie, there were a couple of times where things didn't work out, and it didn't. And then like, oh, I was working, and I had to take the kid in. But every time I could, we did use it, and it was just so unbelievably helpful. I mean, that I wondered, like, why is everyone not doing this? And that's when the work kind of started. You look into it, and I thought, this is why this has to be out there already, and it wasn't. And then found out all the reasons why, and here we are.
So
It's just a little bunny trail. So I on one tattoo on my chest, I figured I would try EMLA.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it worked really good until it stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went from basically feeling nothing to being a foaming at the mouth heroin addict that just got hit with 2 Narcans. I mean, because it went from like 0 to 1,000,000. And I'm like, okay, this is an incredibly bad idea, because unless you have stuff that's going to last hours, and I mean, I had one tattoo where I sat for almost 16 hours.
Oh my goodness.
So you gotta earn it. That's what I mean. That's what one artist said. He goes, you got to earn it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
There you go. You got to suck it up, and maybe not 16 hours of
No,
continuous tattooing.
It was ridiculous. But
so, I'm just curious. Did you have any other volunteers for the trial, like friends, family members that you tested this out on, or just your own kids, kind of like we do as physicians?
You guessed it. My family are the guinea pigs, but no, they were the original guinea pigs, and we've stuck ourselves a lot over the years. But I have a lot of friends and family to thank who've volunteered themselves too.
So walk us along the journey then. What happened? You're doing these EMLA occlusive, like globby bandages, basically, so they're not having pain with their vaccinations. So the idea hits you, maybe this would be an idea for everybody. So can you walk us through sort of the process of what happened with the development then?
Yeah. So started looking into the problem. Like, is this just a me problem, or do other people care about this? And, the research really showed that the rates of needle phobia were rising precipitously. Like, back in 1995, the rate of needle phobia amongst adults was around 10%. But, 30 years later, now it's up to 25% of adults that's needle phobic. It's shockingly high. And there's good reason for it. When I was a kid, I got 6 shots before the age of 6, but my kids are getting 36 shots each in that same time. And obviously this is a great thing, because we're protecting better than ever from disease, but, just ignoring the pain and the trauma that needles can cause, it has consequences. So, it became clear that the market was there, but then the question was, why isn't there already something out there? What's going on here? And that was interesting to learn about. I think that, one, since this is a growing market, people didn't really think there was an opportunity there. That's number one. And 2, I think this is also a problem that we all face kind of privately. Like, we deal with it with our own family members, or you deal with it for yourself, and you don't really talk about it too much. I don't think it's still quite acceptable to say, like, I'm terrified of needles, and that's why I don't go to the doctor, So I think those are a couple of the reasons. The other reason is it is really, really, really hard. This process has been really hard. And to understand the kind of regulatory pathway is complicated and tough. And so I've had a lot of wonderful people along the way kind of teach me and guide us and show us how are we going to make this happen in a way that's plausible. So
tell us exactly how the device works. So kind of as a background for our non-medical listeners. So EMLA is a cream. You glob it on there. It's just looks like moisturizer. You occlude it usually with essentially saran wrap. leave it on there for 2 or 3 hours, and it really does numb your skin. Like, it is quite amazing.
If you have the luxury of that kind of time. I mean, when we're doing kids, or I'm doing a procedure or laceration repair, I'll glob it on there, and I'll give them 20 minutes is a long time, because you can't leave it for 3 hours. But excuse me.
Right.
So tell us what Thimble does exactly. Obviously, it's not just involving globbing on some Emla cream and leaving it for 3 hours. What is the device exactly, and kind of where you're at now, and how does it work?
So actually, Thimble is a platform of solutions to alleviate the pain and anxiety that needles cause. And so there are currently about 3 parts of it. So there's the Prepare patch, which is a patent pending drug and adhesive patch that you apply on about an hour before. So to compare to the 2 to 3 hours of Emla. So you apply it beforehand, wherever you're going to get a shot or a blood draw, pretty much any needle procedure. And then basically nothing changes for the practitioner. So the nurse, the doctor, whoever is going to be giving the injection is still going to clean you the same way, basically remove the center portion, which exposes the area of treated skin, clean with alcohol like you normally would, and go on with the needle procedure as you would. And by the way, a lot of people are injecting themselves at home now. There are a ton of injectable medications, IVF, diabetes, there's so many medications that are given at home. So this is the kind of device that can be used at home as well. And so the way I see it is it should be something that's in all of our medicine cabinets, and we can kind of control the situation for ourselves and for our family members. Because to your point, in the office, we don't have the luxury of time sometimes, and we don't have the 2 hours that, to let someone sit, and numb. So that's the first part of it. That's the Prepare part. Then there's the Recover patch, which is a patent pending patch that alleviates the pain and soreness that you get after needle pokes. So you probably remember, after the COVID shot, the flu shot, after the Tdap, it's very sore. And so this is actually a plant-based patch that really helps the soreness and the achiness. And then the thing is, pain isn't just physical, it's also emotional and psychological. And that's why the patches are paired with our app that features all the research-backed tools and techniques that mitigate needle pain and anxiety. So these are things like breath work, distraction, applied muscle tension, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, just to help get us all through any needle procedure.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about, as far as before we get to like how someone buys it, purchases, downloads the app, etc., the development of this and sort of what you learned. So walk us through sort of a summary of what it was like developing. You did the research, kind of looked into, pain, and thought maybe this is a good idea. So where did it go from there? So
strangely, it went right back to my old dermatology textbooks, actually, because I was trying to understand, how Emla works. Why does it work? Why are there not other options that we use more frequently? And actually, there was this graph just in one of our old textbooks, and it showed how Emla takes the 2 to 3 hours, and then it's maintained beyond for about 8 hours. It kind of holds its steady state, if the cream's still applied, to your point with the tattoos. And so it made me realize that, okay, these medications that are out there, all of the lidocaine products that are out there, there are lidocaine patches for arthritis and things like that. They're all designed to be left on the skin for about 8 to 12 hours for slow, steady release of the medication. And we wanted to design something differently. And in that graph, there was a graph with lidocaine and other excipients, and showed how you could really allow more lidocaine to penetrate quickly. And so that was kind of how we started, and then worked with the research lab to figure out how are we going to do this, because that's where my dermatology experience comes into play, because we know that skin it's kind of like an umbrella. It's very good at keeping things out. How do we get what we want to go into the skin? And so that took some R&D.
So where are you now? Are you at the direct to consumer sales thing level? Are you selling to pharma chains? What's the story now?
We are about to launch. We have not launched yet, so we're about to launch, and we will be sold directly online. So anybody could purchase. And what we'll be launching with, I should say, is the Recover patch, which is the patch that you put on afterwards. So I'm excited for people to try it, and I hope it helps people be able to kind of do their thing the next day, go to work, go to basketball practice, go to whatever it is you need to do without having to take systemic medications, because I think a lot of us are just like taking a bunch of Advil and, hopefully it manages the pain in a safer way. And ultimately, we hope to be in retail, and, the long-term vision is that we're able to impact public health. It turns out that actually that needle fear is really causing a lot of people to really avoid the doctor and avoid a lot of the healthcare that we all need. And so, it's actually interesting. COVID really magnified the issue. And there was a study out of Oxford that showed that if we actually addressed injection anxiety, we could increase COVID vaccinations by 10%, which, that's a lot of that's a, what else moves the needle by 10%, so so I feel like this is something that's really hopefully going to impact the way people are able to get the healthcare they need, vaccines, blood draws, at-home medications. So TBD, but I hope it's something that eventually is offered to everyone. Like something I always say is, we expect anesthesia before a surgery. And that wasn't always the case. Anesthesia was invented in the mid 1800s. It's not so long ago. And so I hope that, pain control at needle procedures is offered to everyone soon too.
That's a really good point to that, because
well, the Civil War, it was a belt, whiskey, and a bone saw.
yeah.
So
And
actually,
and this it's interesting because we've done a lot of shows on vaccinations, COVID, the whole controversy, and differing ideas on pros, cons.
Yeah.
And as we get this far in our career, we start to reflect back, and we're like, are some of these things we're doing in medicine really as helpful as we thought initially? But to go beyond that, you're right. I mean, to make people's experiences in healthcare less torturous is, a plus. And so whether it's vaccines we're talking about, but things like injectable medications, as you mentioned, are becoming a bigger part of people's lives. Diabetic medications, self-injection, all the different monoclonal antibody injections. I myself use a monthly injectable for my migraine medication. And
she's very whiny when she injects it.
You are just full of BS today.
No. Some of those apparently they hurt like hell because you hit the button and it's just like mega. You have no control.
Some of those auto injectors, well, I will say, and based on the forums, so it's a migraine medication, and Zemgality is what I use as the name brand, but there's Aimovig, there's others. But a lot of people don't know how to use them correctly, or they're not instructed correctly by their healthcare provider, sadly, or the pharmacist. And so I read about people putting these things in not subcutaneous fatty tissue, but right over the muscle or areas that's going to be more painful anyway. Not that your product is going to make a difference in that necessarily, but it's just the incorrect usage just boggles my mind.
Well, and it is a significant barrier to care.
But it is.
I mean, it really is. Like, you could talk about vaccines and blood draws, but some of these auto injectors, like from my perspective, that would be the honey hole as far as market, because some of the auto injectors really are painful because they hit the skin really hard and fast, and then they inject immediately. So you don't have that kind of digital control over it like a skilled provider would have. And they hurt. It's like getting Toradol. I mean, that stuff's god awful. I mean, you're injecting acid into someone's glute.
Right. And so for me,
I've had patients
it's a psych up fest, and I'm tough, and I actually self-injected Toradol myself into my glute. That is like, I have to dissociate my brain from my body and go through this mental kind of experience for 30 seconds before. So I totally understand for people that aren't able to do that, which most people, I don't.
But I've had patients that won't go on the migraine monoclonal antibodies.
Yes.
Because they meet criteria. I mean, they're having 120 hours a month of migraines, which is just, it can't even comprehend that. and I can't inject myself.
So I'm just excited thinking of this as it could be something that could be even incorporated, along with. I mean, this is thinking way ahead of the future, but if you could even incorporate something like this along with your auto injector every month, it just kind of comes with it. It's like, here you go.
Sell licenses.
No, that's exactly it. It should be in every package.
It should be in every package. You put this on, at whatever time. And then, of course, we live in an app world. It reminds you however, now you can do that. I mean, I don't know. That to me, that's the big market.
Everything you said just is everything you were just, that whole conversation is exactly the point. The whole idea of causing pain to yourself is antithetical to being human. And so this is the point. I'm always so amazed and impressed by what patients are able to do. Like IVF, they have to draw up the medication themselves. They've not been trained in this. They have to draw up the medication themselves, figure out where to inject it. There's no instruction really, given anywhere. And it's impressive, and it's kind of unbelievable. And that's what we want to be there for, just to give a little support. Like, hey, you're not crazy. You're not bad. You're not weak for not wanting to do this, or for like being a little afraid. This is just literally being human. We're going to reject pain. That's normal. So, yeah.
And so any thoughts on the non-medical usage of it, such as tattoo?
You'd need a lot of them for tattoos.
Yes, they're well, I guess if you're going to get a small, but yeah,
a small tattoo.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's the beauty of it being available over the counter. I think people can find their own uses and figure out what works for them, hopefully. So we'll see. And actually, there are all kinds of elective uses, like blood donations, another place where we hope to have an effect. There's always a shortage of blood products. So, hopefully this will help some people be able to get there. We'll see.
I love it.
No, you got to get a Disney license so that you have like Elsa on the little patch.
Yes, exactly. Tell them to call me.
I know. I think of all the stickers right in the office that we give out to the kids, and everybody gets to pick. So there you go. You can have the adulting kind of stickers on there, and the kids. There's so many. Here we are scheming on all the marketing stuff. That's kind of fun. What we like to do.
I love it. It is fun, isn't it? We get to use our creative brains. It's fun. I love it.
So tell us a little bit about the post-therapy plant-based patch. Is there something that people should be wary of if they have allergies to certain plants? Is there some people that can't use it? Can you give us a little hint on kind of what it is and how long it stays on for?
Sure. Yep. You can put it on right after a shot. And I would say for both patches, if you have allergy to adhesives, not the product for you, because both of them do contain adhesives. They kind of look like stickers. Mm-hmm. The plant-based patch contains turmeric and arnica, which both are, kind of, now we all know about them. For centuries, people have been using these actually on different continents to alleviate pain and bruising and swelling and things like that. And so we thought that they could potentiate each other potentially. And so, and in testing, it's just been remarkably helpful. And I think I'm excited about it because, how we're trained in medicine, we only get to really learn about our, Western medicine. And so I think that what happens sometimes is our minds get closed off to what else might be out there. And so throughout this process, it just kind of like my mind's been opened up a little bit and realized like, hey, there's a lot out there and we shouldn't be closed off. We should take the good stuff from all there is and put it together because like, that's what works. Things. Yeah.
Isn't that real medicine? Isn't that what?
Well, no, it's either medicine or it's not medicine. And that's the thing. And, our minds have been exploded with the podcast, just the people we've met. And I've said this for decades. Ancient wisdom needs to be paid attention to, because if it was ancient BS, we wouldn't know about it.
Exactly.
It would be extinct by now.
Right.
So, that's it. Like even looking, you look at Chinese medicine, like the hot and cold, the yin and the yang, and you go, all these, that's actually, if you're really honest, is the basis of allopathic medicine. It's homeostasis. We just give it a different name and we don't have the cool symbol.
That's right. We
But
need a
but
cool
but it's
symbol.
the same idea. It's that your body wants to be in this balanced state. There's this tension of hot and cold, or however you want to put it, right? And if you're coming up with this 6,000 years ago, what are you going to call it? You're not going to call it homeostasis. You're going to call it yin and yang. And we just, the arrogance in Western medicine is really kind of nauseating, to say the least. And it doesn't mean you throw everything out. It means you pick the best fruit from multiple trees.
That's exactly how I feel. Yep.
So I'm excited because I'm thinking we had guests on a couple years ago.
Yes.
Cabinet Health.
I know exactly where she's
and I
going.
don't know if you know much about Cabinet Health, but they've grown exponentially over the past couple of years. And we're on Shark Tank this last year and got picked up by was it Kevin over there?
I think they got two sharks. They got
anyway.
Kevin and somebody else.
But they're growing, and they have a sustainable product in which you can get over-the-counter medications sent right to your door. So your Aleve, Advil, and they're working on now prescription medication side. But it's great because the packaging is biodegradable. It's reusable packaging. Get rid of all that plastic waste. And it's just a great concept. And it's growing. And I've really been excited to see that kind of come from the ground up. And I'm thinking this is going to go down the same pathway. So I'm really excited for you and for the company, because this is a brilliant idea. And it's something that everybody can use, and through healthcare, right to you're right, the layperson, to make this an over-the-counter product that people can use for personal medical use. So what is the timeline on launching this? Where can people look for it? And what's the plan for the next couple of months?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I listened to that podcast about the Cabinet Health, and that's amazing. But yeah, so our website's thimblehealth.com, and you're going to see a lot more information come up on our website soon. But in the meanwhile, definitely take a look at the guide section, because we tried to put just really simple, short, easy tools and techniques that anybody can use at home to make needle experiences better. And then we will be launching the Recover patch in the summer of 2023. And then hopefully soon thereafter, the Prepare patch. And, I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but one of our goals is just to really increase compassion around this whole idea, meaning compassion for patients, compassion for ourselves when it comes to the medical setting, but also compassion for the people taking care of us, like our nurses, our doctors, whoever. I hope that Thimble makes everyone's life a little better. Meaning, I think, I know you guys know this experience, but like when there's a patient who's really anxious and nervous, you feel terrible, inflicting pain. It also takes a whole lot of time, to get through. And I hope this just makes, adds a little ease for everybody, in the process. So anyways, I say that to say that we are starting a blog where people can just share their own experiences when it comes to needle procedures, or really anything medical, because we just want to, increase visibility about, hey, like, this is a thing that's normal. You don't like needles, neither do we. And let's just talk about it and kind of, I guess, normalize it a little bit. So I think like the more stories people hear and the more advice we can give each other about, well, here's what helped me get through, even when you were explaining how you kind of get through your shots for your migraines. I think that kind of stuff really helps other people. So yeah. Sidetracked.
So let's shift gears and tell us about what it was like to transition from this, being a physician, which is very narrow scope of training, that's very detailed. And then, of course, you're a specialist in dermatology, so that's even narrowing your focus more, where we are in general not tremendously great at business and terribly risk averse, which is fine. You're dealing with life and death. You shouldn't be out there taking risks with other people's lives. That would be entirely unethical. So that's bred into us as doctors, and those aren't bad things. They're just realities. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the entrepreneurial world, I mean, it's all risk, and you really have to kind of push your chips into the middle of the table and, hope you hit the next card. So what was that journey like emotionally for you?
Yeah, that's been kind of the craziest part, because I would say that I was one of those kind of fear-based people, very, very risk averse. And I think I've been on this track of, like, I knew I wanted to be a doctor when I was 8, that was the path. And I couldn't think of anything else. Like, I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. And I would never, ever, ever said I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just never even crossed my mind. But then, you see a problem and you're like, hey, I think I could do something to fix it. And then it's just literally one step at a time. And I think that's how I've had to think about it, because when I look at even now, when I think about the long term and like, how are we gonna, it's overwhelming, and that makes it impossible. But it's not. You just do the next thing that's in front of you. So even just when we were starting it was like, okay, this is a problem for me. I fixed it for myself. What about everybody else? Well, why isn't there anything else? Figure out what else is out there. Well, is this a big enough problem? Figure out the problem. And then you just take one step at a time, and soon you're somewhere. You know what I mean? But I think that at a certain point, we all have to recognize that we all have so much potential, and we're just not the thing that we've been told we are. So, you are not just physicians, you are people who have capabilities beyond that. And so this whole experience has kind of allowed for so much personal growth, to realize, like, yes, there's a lot of risk. Yes, nothing's in my control, but all I can do is just try my best, and hopefully we make some progress. And that in and of itself has been valuable, so I hope everyone gets out there and, just
right.
fixes problems. Like, that's how we're going to get anywhere, I think.
So was there a time where you're like, okay, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done? And
yes.
It's time to just say, I'm going to go treat people's rashes and inject Botox in Redondo Beach and have a nice life, because this is just, what did I do to myself? I have definitely thought that. I'm not going to lie. It's the entrepreneurial journey is not for the weak of heart. It's there's so many ups and downs, and people tell you that it's going to be ups and downs, it's going to be a roller coaster, but there's nothing like going through them. And then you wonder, why am I still doing this? Because the lows are so low, but the highs are so high. So, so definitely. And the thing is, I do love dermatology, and I'm so grateful, that I was able to, complete a residency in dermatology, and I'm lucky that I'm able to practice still. So, I don't ever want to, let that go fully. But life takes you in different directions sometimes. And just because you go here for a moment doesn't mean you can't go back or go somewhere else. So, I'm just kind of just trying to stay in the moment, see what's in front of me, and then we'll see where I land.
I would say, so for anybody who's listening that is in the medical field or other field for that matter, that, has some thoughts on developing something in that scope similar to you, any advice on, it sounds like your husband is in marketing. That's his background. Is that right? Finance.
Yeah.
So that played as he full in on this too, and is basically kind of co-partnering and steering the ship. Would you have any kind of advice for someone, say that their spouse or their best friend, or they don't have that? I mean, any advice on, yes, you need to find someone to do that part for you, or take it on yourself, or any tips on that?
Yes. So he co-founded it with me. And so, yes, it's been extremely helpful to have someone, with a business mind and who understands, all the language, all the verbiage. But, what I also realized in this is that there are, it's like Mr. Rogers, look for the helpers. They're everywhere. And I didn't realize that when I was so closed-minded before. When you start on this journey, you realize there are people everywhere who just want to help, and who are interested like you are, and who are curious and will help connect you to other people. And so it's like this process really has expanded, the kind of network and who's out there. And so if you don't, I don't know everything. I don't know anything really, you know what I mean? But there's always someone who does know more than you, and you can find them and you can ask them. And so I guess that would be my advice, is like, just keep being curious, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And you'll be surprised at how many people are excited to help you and to kind of further your idea as you go.
I mean, amen to that, because that's been even our experience on the podcast world. And it's kind of like a kaleidoscope. At first you look through and you think it's just this black tunnel of, oh, I don't even know where to go to start coloring this lens in. And the next thing you know, as you network and meet people and just ask questions and put stuff out there and things start to unfold, and it all kind of, it's crazy how things start to connect, and it might take a little while for the next sort of bloom of something to come up. But you're right. If you're not afraid to ask questions and put yourself out there, people start reaching out in the weirdest ways, and you start meeting people in ways unexpectedly, and anything's possible. We've learned that, and I'm sure you're seeing that exactly in what you do. And so that would be, that's a really positive, I think, inspiration for people listening that dream of doing that. It's like, it is possible. And even if you're old gomers like us, just starting off and living in the middle of BFE, as we say, in the middle of the nowhere land, anything's possible. So it's super exciting. So I'm really excited because you've developed, I think, a wonderful product. You're right. I can't believe it hasn't been out there. It's got the perfect niche. The market's expanding. Good for you. So that's really exciting.
Thank you so much.
So we will definitely put the links up to thimble.com. People can follow along there. And then are you going to be on any social media platforms as well in the future where people can find you?
Yes. So it's actually thimblehealth.com, and we're on Facebook. I'm really terrible at social media things.
Yeah,
but anyways,
no.
it's Thimble Health on Facebook, and we're launching our Instagram soon, and you can find us on LinkedIn too. But, please reach out directly to me. My email's on the website. And so I just love to hear from people and hear people's stories. So thank you.
Awesome. And I don't know, here's my own plug, but I think you should go on Shark Tank so we can watch you on TV. And
oh man,
you could tell those sharks how great the stuff is. And I don't know if that's your business plan, but I think it'd be kind of fun to see you on there.
Thanks. The sharks are terrifying, but you know
they
what?
are. They're sharks.
No pain, no gain. You got to get out there with
right.
jump in the water.
It's not the dolphin tank, is it?
No,
I know exactly right.
Well, but then it becomes the dolphin tank, like on King of the Hill, where he was violated by the dolphin,
People
and then had a phobia of the water because that was a great episode.
Oh my goodness.
And then he had to go back in the tank to desensitize so he could get back in the ocean because he was scared to death that he was going to be assaulted by a dolphin. So yes, dolphin tank would still be bad.
Oh my gosh. I like to just ask the guests any last sort of parting thoughts, words, something we didn't talk about that you want to mention before we go.
Just that I appreciate everyone's support, and I think if our goal is to just make medical experiences better for everyone, and so we're going to do that as a community, and so all the ideas that come from different people, like I said, I mean it. Just please send them and share them with us, because that's how we're going to make better and better solutions, and that's really it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for being on our show. It's so uplifting to have someone young, fresh in medicine with a positive outlook and innovative ideas.
Well, and that's willing to take risks.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we've noticed a big demographic shift in medicine. As the millennial generation has come in, it's like, okay, we used to ask, how much do we get paid? Because we assumed we'd just be working 80 hours a week. So just tell me how much you get paid. Mm-hmm. And then the next generation was how much time to get off. Mm-hmm. And so the shift to employment base has actually made people even more risk averse, in my opinion, because they don't even own practices anymore. And so I find this incredibly refreshing to see somebody, kind of the generation after us that's willing to actually step out and say, hey, here's a problem. Let's solve it. Let's solve it in kind of the good old American way, which is let's build a business that makes people's lives better, because that's what businesses are supposed to do. They're supposed to make people's lives better. So thank you so much. This was great and really positive, which sometimes our show is not. So we appreciate that as well.
And we will be following you for the long haul. I love it.
Thank you so much. And my eyes are on you guys.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, that was fun. Wasn't it fun to talk to somebody so unbelievably positive?
I know. So inspirational, positive, upbeat, and a great product. And before I forget, I'm going to just say it now because I will forget. What she didn't say on the podcast is that it's going to be hopefully marketed such that you can use your flexible savings account or even healthcare cover it. But it is a product that is made in America. Can we give a big hooray for that? Made in America product. So I wanted to get that shout out in for her because I think that's a really big deal. Keeping it local, keeping it American made is a big deal to me. I don't know what you think, but hey.
Yes.
So
No, I think especially in the drug world, which there's lidocaine in the patch, which is obviously a medication. I think you escape a lot of potential issues by having this manufactured in the United States and not offshore.
Oh, she also
it will
wanted
be up
us
to
to
any
mention
FDA regulations as far
yes.
as quality and
just because the way it's set up, they didn't have to go through all the same. They didn't have to actually get through all the FDA approvals
yeah.
again, even though it will meet FDA approval, so to speak. So that's exciting. Really looking forward to where this goes. So keep your eyes on the horizon for that. We'll put all the links for the information out there for you and where you can find that product. Any other thoughts, Tim? Any news
no,
you can use in updates? Hey, look
well, no, there's
I'm trying to wave my arm in front of the camera, which I'm doing a horrible job if you guys are watching this video. But look at, I had surgery Friday. That was it hasn't even been a week because it was Friday, Good Friday for fixing an elbow. I know if you've been following my story, I just, had my hip replacement in January and I was on to the next orthopedic problem, which was getting my dumb elbow fixed. And that in itself is going to be topic for, I think we'll maybe cover that on our Doc Tales episode if we haven't already, and tell just about the craziness that goes on in trying to find the right doctor for you and how even as a doctor, I was not getting the answers I needed in the bunny trails I had to go through. But anyway, got my elbow hopefully back to normal and I will be able to, I don't know, throw a ball, smack Tim over the head, and pick up a glass of wine properly now. It's really debilitating when you can't
look forward to that.
When you can't use your dominant hand. Really, that was like a whole other level of inability to do things, becoming left-handed. And I got tired of asking Tim for help. So there was that. But anyway.
Yes. The not leaving medicine, because she didn't leave her dermatology practice, but just the guts to do something that isn't a side gig. Like it's a ton of work. It's a second job to produce a product.
Oh, you're still reflecting on our interview.
That still is the real, I mean, that's the backstory to the story. Like, hopefully this is a very successful product and brings a lot of relief to people. That's, the bottom line there. But it's really fascinating what it takes to do that. And it is very scary and it's risk. Like, you're putting money at risk to do something that you believe in. But at the same time, I can't imagine anything more satisfying than succeeding at something like that. And even if it, doesn't blow up, you still were true to what you needed to do. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction in that as well. Because a lot of people would sit on the sidelines. I don't want to risk, income, take time away from my other job, et cetera, and so forth. So that I found very inspirational. And, we all need a little inspiring, especially in this day and age. So that was great.
It even actually hits home for us doing this podcast because we appreciate everybody that writes to us, that follows us on social media and keeps us inspired and motivated and keeps our spirits up. But it can be tough because, it's not like we've hung up our day jobs and that there's times when this is like tough work and we're thinking, is this even worth it? Are we producing any quality product that people use, like, etc. And so I think it was motivating for both of us just to be passionate going forward about the podcast and taking the positive inspiration and feedback we get from you guys and using it to keep going. Because not like we're entrepreneurs, so to speak, but we're creating content and there's ups and downs for sure. So I think that's a very uplifting, positive message. I like what she said. The lows can be really low, and yes, we know they can. But the highs are really good too. And
then, of course, where my brain went is, wow, it's the same for a heroin addict.
Oh my gosh. Of course. That's where your brain went.
Pretty low and pretty high.
Yes. Meanwhile,
without the hepatitis C.
We are working on our Doctails with Cocktails live streams and trying to get you some more live video and antics with us, with a little bit lighter episodes coming out on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I'm not even going to say Pacific Standard or Global, or it's just Pacific time. I don't even know what it's called anymore.
We're going to use Greenwich Mean Time now from now on, so that people have to subtract whatever it is, 20 hours or
there you go,
12 hours, or I don't know what it is. What's Greenwich Mean Time? That is the time, right? It's London, the time world.
The world revolves around London, as it should. The world should revolve around my ancestors in Britain.
Yeah, it should. Of course.
I must say.
Great clock, terrible teeth. Thank you, England. Plus Iron Maiden. So, there's some you take the good with the bad.
Yeah. And I'm thinking scones, clotted cream, and
unbelievably terrible beer.
And terrible gin.
Oh, no. London Dry gin is fantastic.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. I think it's the standard with which all gins are.
Maybe they can sponsor us. I don't know.
No, London Dry gin is a kind of gin. It's like bourbon in the whiskey world, or Scotch in the whiskey
Beef Eater. I was thinking of the Beef
Eater. Beef Eater is just one type of London Dry. Tanqueray is London Dry gin.
If you're listening, you clearly figured out that I know nothing about gin, other than it's juniper and I can't drink it.
Because you're allergic to junipers.
I am. Yes.
Yes.
It's a very bad thing. Anyway, great to have you here. Please share this podcast with somebody you think will find it interesting. I think this one is going to be a hit, because who doesn't want pain relief if you're sticking a needle in to your body, or your kids getting their vaccine? So this is really fascinating. Please, if you haven't done so already, when we asked for you to do a review, we asked for 5-star review, but even a written review on Spotify or Apple, it really helps push the show up to the top when people search for medical podcasts, so that we can get discovered. So it's your way of kind of helping us out. And we, as always, appreciate you writing to us, sending us your email. Maybe in the future, I'll drop a little hint, but working on some regular contact through email with you and sending some fun newsletter updates. So reach out to us anytime. Like and review us on Apple, Spotify, and check us out on Rumble for all the beautiful video of us. And as always, we'll see you next time.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more, and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
While we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible, we can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.